A few years ago, I decided to take a solo hiking trip into the wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. I'd been hiking for years and knew the area pretty well. The trail I chose was remote, cutting through dense forests and rocky mountains and ending at a stunning, isolated lake. I was planning to be off-grid for about 3 days, just me and nature. I was looking forward to the solitude. The first day went smoothly. The trail was beautiful, lush green forests, the sound of birds echoing through the trees, and the cool breeze brushing against my face. As the sun started to set, I found a nice flat spot to set up camp. After a quick meal, I climbed into my tent, listening to the peaceful sounds of the forest as I drifted off to sleep. I felt calm, completely at ease. The second day was when things started to feel off. I woke up early, packed my gear, and continued on the trail. The forest was much denser now, the trees towering above, blocking out most of the sunlight. I noticed the air had changed too. It was quieter, heavier, like the forest was watching me. Still, I pressed on, but as I walked, something strange happened. I couldn't find the trail markers anymore. They had been pretty easy to spot up until this point, bright and obvious. But now, nothing. At first, I thought I'd just missed one, so I turned around and retraced my steps, trying to pick up the path. But after an hour, I was still wandering aimlessly, and the realization hit me. I was lost. I tried not to panic. I've been in the woods plenty of times, and I knew freaking out wouldn't help. I had my map and compass, but for some reason, things weren't lining up. It was as if the landscape itself had changed, like the forest had swallowed the trail. I decided to head in the general direction I thought was right, hoping I'd eventually find a marker or familiar landmark. But as the hours passed, the forest around me started to feel different. The trees seemed closer, denser, and the air heavier with every step. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone or something watching me. It was the middle of the afternoon when I stumbled upon something that made my blood run cold. There on the ground was an old tattered backpack. It looked like it had been out here for years, partially buried under dirt and leaves. My first thought was maybe it belonged to another hiker who'd passed through, but there was something eerie about it, like it had been abandoned suddenly. I knelt down and rummaged through it, hoping to find some clue as to who it belonged to or how long it had been there. Inside, I found a water bottle, some old snacks, and a map. The map was almost identical to mine, but with one big difference. There were strange marks on it, circles and symbols drawn around certain areas, including the very spot where I was standing. A chill ran down my spine. Why would someone mark this place? I quickly packed up and started moving again, faster this time. But the deeper I went, the more I felt like I was walking in circles. The trees all looked the same, and no matter how far I went, I couldn't seem to find my way out of this part of the forest. As night began to fall, I knew I needed to set up camp again, but the unease from earlier had grown into full-blown fear. Every rustle of leaves or crack of a twig made my heart race. I couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was out there watching. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard noises, soft footsteps, distant whispers. At one point, I thought I saw a shadow pass by my tent, but when I looked, there was nothing there. Just darkness. The next morning, exhausted and on edge, I decided to make a desperate push to find the trail or any sign of civilization. That's when I saw it, something glinting through the trees. I pushed forward, my heart pounding, thinking it might be another hiker or a ranger station. But as I got closer, I realized what it was. An old rusted cabin. It looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Windows broken, vines creeping up the sides. I don't know why, but the sight of it filled me with dread. The door was slightly ajar, and something inside me told me not to go in. But I was desperate, exhausted, and I needed shelter. I stepped inside. The air was stale, and the place reeked of decay. I could see old furniture, overturned and broken, and papers scattered across the floor. As I moved through that cabin, I noticed something even stranger. Carvings on the walls. Symbols like the ones I'd seen on that old map. That's when I heard it. A low creak, like someone stepping on a loose floorboard. I froze, heart racing. Slowly, I turned toward the sound, and there, standing in the shadows, was a figure. I couldn't see its face, but but I could feel its eyes on me. My blood ran cold. Without thinking, I bolted out of the cabin, running as fast as I could through the trees. I didn't stop, didn't look back, even as I heard footsteps behind me following. I ran until my legs gave out, collapsing near a stream. I don't know how long I lay there, but when I finally got up, the forest was silent again. The figure was gone, and somehow, by sheer luck, I stumbled back onto the main trail. I've never been back to that part of the woods since, and I never will.